What's up guys, Jordan here bringing you a review of Island, a visual novel on the Nintendo Switch. This review was written by our regular visual novel expert, Miguel Marin. These are his words, not mine. I'm just pulling this bad boy together. Let's see what Miguel thinks of this story. While some of you may know Frontwing as the creators of the popular Grisaya series, they actually have a large catalogue of developed visual novels, among which we find our current visual novel, Island. If you have already played any of their previous titles, you know when it comes to visual novels, Frontwing mean business. But is this one island worth travelling to? Let's find out. In terms of the story, and without going into too many spoilers, just going over the premise and such, things you'll know and find out early on, don't worry about it. Our protagonist wakes up on an island without a memory, without a name, and without any clothes. Yes, it's another amnesiac protagonist, although this time the game starts with a light-hearted tone which helps give the feeling that you're alongside him for the ride. He does, however, have one memory, or rather a gut feeling. He strongly believes that he comes from the future. Unfortunately, things don't go that smoothly for him, and mere moments after waking up, he finds himself being chased off the island by the mayor. Just when things seemed at their nadir, a girl named Ohara Rin decides to take on our protagonist with the condition that he will work for her as a personal servant. From there on, he will get to meet the two other main heroines, the eccentric Miko Garando Sara and the tsundere daughter of the mayor, Kurutsu Karen. Thanks Miguel for making me say all these words. All three girls happen to be the heiress of the three most powerful families on the island. As such, the story will involve the power struggle between these three families, as well as the truth behind the myths and legends that surround the locale's past. Regarding the cast, beside one particular character that I found a bit overbearing, for the most part, very likable cast. Maybe not as remarkable as something like Aokana or even Grisaya, but memorable enough to carry the plot forward. Surprisingly though, my favourite character was actually none other than the police officer. He was just one swell dude, and his exasperated attitude towards the protagonist always led to amusing conversations. The game is structured into three main routes, with Rin being the game's main girl. However, for narrative reasons that I'm not going to spoil, her route will remain locked until both Sara and Karen's route are cleared first. While I understand why they took this approach, it's slightly unfortunate since I found those two routes to be the weakest part of the story. It's not that their pacing is bad, in fact, the pace as a whole is really good throughout. It's always moving at a brisk pace. But the issue was that the conflict from those routes felt kind of trivial, which in short made both Karen and Sara's routes rather forgettable. It was around this time where I felt that the game had laid out its hand way too soon. Little did I know that it was hiding quite a few aces up its sleeve, in fact probably enough aces to make an entire deck. This is a game that loves to constantly deceive its reader, and the moment I realized this, my thoughts on it did an almost 180. It quickly became a metagame trying to outwit each other, almost like a duel between the player and the game itself, where one had to be able to tell apart which was a red herring and which was a foreshadowing. On top of that, the game started to drop some seriously huge plot twists which kept the latter half of its story constantly engaging right until the very ending. Speaking of which, it's pretty hard to review this game without talking about its ending, and what's even harder is talking about the ending without spoiling it, but fear not, I will be as vague as possible. Talk about it in general terms, so don't worry about it. First of all, I want to be clear. I don't think that the ending was bad. It actually manages to tie things up in an impressively tidy manner. However, all the mind games and theories that the game invites the player to create, I had a few scenarios in my head on how it would all end, so when the game pulled off one last unexpected twist, it left me slightly disgruntled. I'm not saying my alternative fanfiction-like endings would have been any better. In fact, I'm sure they were trite and cliche in comparison, but I think I wanted something a bit more conclusive. I guess I'm slightly upset that the game itself managed to beat me on its dying breath right when I had my guard down. It's indeed a game that has the ability to keep surprising its reader right until the very end, for better or worse. Just a quick mention about the bad or alternative endings. This game actually has quite a few of them. In fact, I did a big brain move and got myself into a bad ending within the first 30 minutes after starting the game. Fortunately, these endings happen almost immediately after picking the wrong choice, and on top of that, the game autosaves before it, so it's a very forgiving game if you wish to reach its true ending. In terms of the visuals, the visual department is probably the part where Frontwing really show their pedigree. Everything is detailed and colourful with some fantastic CGs and character designs. I liked in particular Sarah's design. It's not that common to have a lion mane as a haircut, but Sarah is just rocking it. While we are talking about character designs, there is one, however, that it didn't quite click with me, and surprisingly enough, it was the main protagonist design. He just looks old, as in too old compared to the girls. There's a visible age gap between them, which can make some scenes slightly, well, awkward, especially considering the occasional questionable train of thought of our lovely protagonist. I know plenty of people out there won't care about it in the slightest, and it's not like it has any real impact of the game as a whole, but I feel it's worth pointing out. In terms of the sound, the design is once again where the game flexes its production values. The game is fully professionally voice acted, and I truly mean fully voice acted. Like, even the menus are voice acted. If you have ever wanted to be called spoiled and self-indulgent by an anime girl just because you simply wanted to change the sound settings, well, this game will finally fulfill your long-desired dreams. Music-wise, there's some really nice tracks in here too, particularly the slower tempo tracks. They really set the intimate mood beautifully well. If I'm being honest, they might have been my favorite parts of the whole game. If you've been listening until this part, then you're probably already familiar with visual novels, so you know here in the value section is where things get spicy. Island is priced at a hefty £53.99 or your regional equivalent. I usually try to defend visual novels pricing considering how niche the genre is, but this time they're making it kind of hard for me to do so. To be perfectly fair, Island is quite a lengthy title, taking around 40 hours to complete, and its production values are high indeed, but when you compare it to other visual novels offering more or less the same type of quality and the amount of content, the pricing does stick out. I would say if you're buying digitally, maybe wait for a sale, but unfortunately Prototype, the publisher, doesn't seem too eager to discount its games. If you don't fancy going digitally, then there is a physical cartridge available in Japan. No Western physical at the time of writing. This Japanese Switch physical has English, so it's perfectly playable for us Westerners. And not taking into account postage costs, it's actually a bit cheaper at the time of writing. If you want to own this tangibly forever, unlike those PS3 and Vita downloads that are dying right now, then I will pop a link below in the description where you can import a physical copy and retain some value at the same time. If you use those links, then you can also support the SwitchWatch team out massively at the same time. Plus, in return, if you use our links, you can get a very swell 5% off any physical item from PlayAsia if you use the coupon code SwitchWatchTV while checking out. That's all one word, SwitchWatchTV, while checking out for 5% off any physical item from PlayAsia. So yeah, now it's looking even better value than the digital price. In conclusion, Island is a polished, high-quality visual novel that is not afraid of twisting its own story as many times as necessary to keep things fresh and interesting. However, this unexpectedness can be at sometimes a double-edged sword, with some plot points not landing as gracefully as they should. But as long as you approach this story with a complete open mind, there's no denying that it can sometimes be nothing short of genius. Fans of the genre will probably already know if they want to pick this one up, but I think there's value here even for newcomers. Long visual novels like this usually require a guide if you want to complete them in a reasonable playtime, but in this regard, the game is surprisingly friendly. Couple that with its relatively fast pace, and it can be a good entry point for those looking for an easy to complete longer visual novel. It is by no means perfect and almost certainly has some flaws, but those occasional flashes of brilliance make this visual novel a memorable and worthwhile experience. A 7 out of 10 from us. Alright guys, many thanks for watching this review of Island. If you want to import this physically, then import links are below. Special thanks to Miguel Marion for writing this review for us. I always trust his views on visual novels. Many thanks to our executive producers Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, Boombox, Brent McLean, Jonathan Rumor, Ganica, Santa Tartaruga, Alolan Jojo, Alexander Cato, J Crod 7776, Elisa, Punky Dooster, Michael Del Polito, and Cigar Trucker. Many thanks for your amazing support. Also, if you watched all the way through this video, you are an absolute legend too. The longer you watch, the more YouTube likes us and the more YouTube pushes us to new people, helps us grow. So yeah, if you are one of the people who watched all the way through, I want to know who you are. Since this game is called Island, leave a little island emoji in the comments so I know who you are and I can thank you. Please check out some of our other videos. We've got a lot to offer you guys. Click one of them and be sure to enjoy it. We'll see you guys over there. Take care.